following views and opinions are based on my time and experience as community coordinator at Wargaming North America for World Warships. Information and opinions may have changed since this video was recorded. No NDA information is contained within this video.
Anyone who thinks that wargaming is going anywhere in the next 3 or 4 years is kidding themselves. The game has enough in it, and the player churn is fine at the moment. That population is staying stable enough that the game easily has, you know, several good years left. What I think you're going to find over time is that the lifespan of a player is going to be reduced. So let's say the lifespan of a player is 6 months. I think in time you're gonna see that lifespan length reduce and reduce. Like even now you're seeing people who have been playing for years kind of calling it a day. And while they may come back every few months for a week or two just to kind of test the waters and stuff, you're gonna see that lifespan deteriorate, I think, and that is where you're gonna run into issues with the game. I think if wargaming wants to continue to see and maintain a population base, they need to bring more excitement. Like I said, like weekend modes. Every other weekend, bring back a fun game mode. Torpedo jousting is a game mode for a weekend. Bathtub mode, racing, that sort of stuff. I can see that in terms of, you know, it's a different way of developing games than what, you know, Western audiences are used to. Because PvE and operations accounted for such a small percent of the player base. That was not the percent of the player base that was making money, so. I have not played Great Battles in Tanks, so I don't know what that is. One thing I would like to see is, you know, like freaking arms race. I wish that, like, every now and again they bring that back as a closed game mode. Not everyone does, but arms race to me was freaking fun. Bring back those sorts of styles of stuff every now and again, just to add some diversity. Just give me something. Don't bring back Bastion though. Bastion's a bitch. Guys, that's where they got the idea for rocket planes, from Bastion mode. They took the freaking bastions and they put them on the sides of freaking planes. I think the solution to that, which they're already experimenting, is like the random bundles scenario where you can always see what you're going to get next, and you know the odds of what you can get. I think that is going to be how they address loot boxes. I used to rent them. The reason... Okay, so there's a few reasons here. One, they are an organizational nightmare. They got better over the years. The more time we put into them, like we automated pricing for the killers and stuff like that, but they were still a logistical nightmare to run. The other issue is other regions, because of the organizational nightmare, didn't want to run them. So they were very an NA specific event. Now, when I left, the team was once again kind of outnumbered. They have the most people they've had on that team for a very long time at this point. So realistically, they have the staffing to pull it off now. I don't know if they have the organizational excellence to do it though. Those events typically took me the best part of like 2 weeks full work to organize and manage. They were not easy events. And the other thing is they want to scale them so that they can get the other regions involved in them, so that they can have more participations and more stuff like that. Not easy to do. Just with how it is designed, it is not easy to do. So they'd have to redesign the event to a certain degree to make it happen, which they don't see the payoff in doing it, which is why it probably won't come back. Like I would be really surprised if they managed to bring it back. I feel like that one would be easy enough to add as a customization. You can't do player-generated content in terms of customization for uploads. So you'd never be able to upload an image into the game that can then be displayed to everyone. But stuff like clan tags, you know, the icon that shows up here, sorry, where my porthole is at the moment, that sort of stuff, like have those available as like vanity items you can display on your ship. You know, we don't all just wear white linen cloths for clothing. You know, we like dressing up and looking nice, man. But yeah, if they sold like consumable camos, so yeah, keep the research bureau points, sure, whatever, don't care. But say for like 10,000 research bureau points, I got like a solid purple camo, like 100 consumable solid purple camos. Dude, I would be all over that, and I would regrind just so I can make all my ships purple. Why? Because I like purple. That is literally the extent of the argument, because I like the color purple. But dude, you stick one of those for like your main colors, everyone is going to be over it. But yeah, like make it so you can put like your vanity tag here, like a clan tag across there, you know, rust removal, stuff like that. People will lap that shit up. Custom stuff you can't do due to licensing issues. There's a whole bunch of reasons why you can't. You know, you'd have to also filter imagery to make sure it's not penises. There is a factor known as the TTP, time to penis. If you have user-generated customized content, how long will it take for someone to be able to find a way to make a penis out of it? Is a thing. It's the same reason like you'll never be able to upload an image to be like associated with your clan officially in-game. Why? Because people are going to put penises in there. And the thing is, yes, you can do manual approval, but then you have to have someone sitting there going, yes, 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 no, yes, 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 penis, no, penis, yes, vagina. Like it's a pain in the ass. That one is a hard one to answer, mostly because I haven't been in wargaming for almost 5 months now. So that one's a little bit more difficult to answer, Stro. From my side, what it looks like they're trying to do with competitive is they are trying to, it feels like they are trying to keep the longer term players around that otherwise, you know, are sick of playing randoms. Yeah, bored of random meta essentially. They are trying to keep that percent of the player base that would otherwise churn out of the game or go find something else to do in the game. That is why you're seeing a very heavy cycle of ranked clan battles, clan brawls, ranked sprint, back to back to back. Because I know, like, even I don't particularly enjoy playing randoms that much anymore. You know, I've just grown out of them. Granted, I have like 15,000 games, so, you know, I've hit the end of the cycle a long time ago. It feels like with competitive, they're using it as a means to keep, you know, their top 25% of players who enjoy those modes most engaged in the game. And that's why you're seeing a much higher cycling of them than what you did like 2017, 2018, when you typically see, you know, ranked battles, clan battles a month off, ranked battles, clan battles a month off. That kind of 3-month cycling on those events. What do they expect from COTS? The COTS has always been, well, for the longest time was, actually, no, it is still its community, right? In terms of, it's the COTS organizers that denote the loadout, the criteria in terms of ships, maps, yada yada. So wargaming doesn't have say in that, but wargaming has kind of piggybacked onto it and supported it because, you know, it looks good to the top 10% players. Honestly, that is what that comes down to. But I think it's interesting to show that King of the Sea has been a great success story for showing that players can get it right in terms of competitive, in terms of, I'm not going to say balance, because I'm sorry, but I do not trust players to balance ships. Like, I'm going to be frank on that. Like, you guys can suggest great ideas, but to put together a full-fledged balance package, saying that wargaming doesn't get it right all the time either. Anyway, I think it is a great example of, you know, that competitive can be designed very well by the player base. I don't know what they're going to do with competitive long term, because I know for a lot of people, myself included, that ranked 3 years ago was a lot more hardcore than what it is now. Now, a lot of what I see people calling for, which is like an Evo system or a skill-based matchmaking system, is never going to work for ships. The player base just isn't there, and while you say, oh, well, on the EU server, we can get up to X amount of players on it at any one time, that's all well and great, but something like that, you have to have a system that works for all servers at all times of the day. So you have to consider, you know, NA off-peak is, what, 3,000-4,000 players? You know, middle of the night sort of thing. Is the system going to work in there? Because if not, then you can't implement it. And if you start switching off your matchmaking systems based off times and servers, you're going to start running into more configuration issues and more client-based issues, which is the same reason that the quote-unquote mercy rule from co-op is never going to go away. Because the reason that is the case is then you have to split how the game runs into 2 separate file formats as it was. I'm not using the technical terminology because I don't know what the technical terminology is, if I'm going to be quite frank with you guys. But you would have to split the game into essentially 2 segments in terms of a co-op engine and an everything else engine to avoid that. And that's why they won't do it. There's not much more to say on that. That is why it won't do it. So yeah, to me, I don't know if they know what to do with competitive. It's, at the moment, it's enough to keep your hardcore players coming back, and they're kind of milking it by rotating it as much as what they are. But do I think they know what they're doing with it? No. I don't like comparing ships to tanks because I feel like they really tailor towards two different audiences. In terms of, yes, you know, they're the same basic concept in terms of gameplay style, you know, 12v12, 15v15, naval equipment, or sorry, not naval equipment, military equipment attacking each other. Is, you know, if you were to describe the games in their simplest form, that's what it would come down to. But the difference and the reason the audience are different is because tanks is a lot faster of a game in terms of what most games are over in 6 to 10 minutes, give or take. And I feel like that's being generous. If Cabbage is still around, he can probably clarify that down a little bit better. Whereas Ships is a much slower game in that you have more time to take your shots, do your movements, yada yada. I also feel like Ships is a lot more new player friendly in terms of, yes, there is tactics, but the base tactics, you know, to not get blapped off the map to begin with, pretty small in comparison to what you need to know in tanks. In Ships is essentially, don't sail into torpedoes and don't go full broadside. Whereas in tanks, to kind of survive basic engagements, again, my experience, is you have to know like side skirting, weird angling, what part of the thing to shoot to get penetrations. Whereas Ships, it's like, if you hit the flat bit, you're pretty much good. Typically speaking, if you hit the ship on some spot, you're most likely going to do damage. And the other thing a lot of people don't realize, as Cabbage just stated, is the games are developed completely different teams. Ships are developed in St. Petersburg, Russia by the Leicester studio. WoT of Tanks is developed in Minsk by, I don't know what their studio is called, but completely different teams. And even internally, people who work on tanks don't work on ships. Not to my knowledge. I mean, there may be. It may have come after my time and I'm just not aware of it. So I don't know on that one. That could have been something newer or like a gag joke that they're doing, but I don't recall it being anything official. So the thing about that, Chieftain WoT of Tanks, not employed by WoT of Warships, said that in a video very early on in the game. It didn't come from a developer. And if it did in another video and I'm just not aware of it, my bad. But you know, look, I say shit all the time and then I go do it. Things change. You know, it was probably at a case when the game was first developed, when that video came out, that the game was not in a state where it could have ever handled submarines. But, you know, it's been almost 5 years since the game came out. We're coming up to 5 years in another 2 months or so. No shit changes. You know, the game in balance as it stands is in a place where you can offer more diversity. Now, I personally think the game freaking needs something to make it interesting again. Is that submarines? I don't know. I don't know if it's submarines, but the game needs something. Hell, if they want to try it with submarines, go for it. I do think, you know, they're approaching submarines a lot better than what they did the CV rework in terms of its own mode for a little bit, test it out there, you know, get ample feedback and not freaking rushing it. So props given where props due, as I think that has been a much better approach this time around. Again, this is not a I'm gonna bitch at wargaming because, you know, I don't work there anymore sort of stream. This is, hey, I will be frank with you in terms of my opinions on bits and pieces, but if something is not true, then I'm not going to say it's true, sort of thing. They're giving it a whirl. Let's see how it comes out. You know, at least their approach to releasing it this time around is a lot better than what it's been in the past. Now, in regards to breaking promises, like the whole no guns bigger than Yamato was if I recall correctly, it was a I think situation, not a we promise. Again, I could be wrong. I don't remember. So I think, you know, while stuff is said in the past, you do have to be understanding that, you know, things change. Development changes, the game changes. The game can't stagnate. If we did the same thing time and time again, you know, we'd have a lot of very similar looking maps, very boring and stagnated gameplay. Oh wait, we already had that. So, you know, you gotta shake things up in some ways sometimes. I think so long as you approach it in the correct way in terms of taking your freaking time, which luckily, like I said, they are doing this time around, then, you know, I will at least wait it out and see. It was a case of, yeah, we know you'll ride it out, I think. Yeah, I think it was a case of, yeah, this is going to be a ride out. RPF was before I started with wargaming. But that is another good example of everyone saying that this is going to ruin the games, it's going to be awful, all that good stuff, for it to actually not be that heavily impactful. I think how they initially executed it and communicated it sucked. I also wish that instead of like putting the modules behind regrinding, I really wish that they had put like just cosmetic stuff. So, you know, deck paint or, you know, solid consumable paint camos. Stuff like that you could just, even if the stats aren't great on them, if I had a consumable solid purple camo that I could shove on all of my ships, dude, I'd be all over that. Yeah, rust removal. Like, cosmetically flary kind of bits and pieces, you know. Put your clan tag on, like, this awkward bit here, like on the deck, paint it on. Stuff like that. I really wish they'd considered putting those sorts of aspects and kind of quote-unquote prestige elements into it, rather than, you know, making it more ships being locked behind it and stuff like that. That would have been how I would have much rather seen it executed. It was bad. It was bad. I think a lot was learned during that, which luckily we did see implemented when Dockyard came back recently. I think it was a case of it was a little too ambitious and explaining how to do it was not clear enough. The fact that we got told as community managers to stay quiet and essentially told we have no additional messaging besides what's being provided was really, really rough, because we were essentially like, look, I get it. Like, I understand why people are upset about this. I can't fix it. At the moment, the devs aren't giving me information, and I'm kind of like sitting here on my hands kind of going, well, I get it, guys. I'm sorry. You know, if you don't like it, don't engage with it. If you like it, engage with it. You know, you get free shit anyway. I mean, but the communication lines were really, really, really muddy on that, unfortunately, yeah. I don't know. My guess is maybe they did some changes in the game which then made it incompatible. But honestly, I don't know. I wish I did know, because I would have loved to have an answer to that, but I thought it was a stupid fun. Because coal is more valuable than flags. You do not drop your most valuable resource all the time. You have a higher chance of getting coal in the coal containers than what you do, like credits and stuff. There we go. But still, it can't pull it every single time because coal is a valuable resource. It's probably an implementation reason in terms of what's technically available in game in terms of doing it, would be my guess. That's actually something I recall at some point them discussing, trying to make it a more automated process. Don't know how far that went, but that is something I vaguely remember hearing at one point.